What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to episode 47 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me and supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Kind of hard to believe that we're already up to episode 47, but we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. We've got about a 21-minute video today. We're going to be focusing on trying to get the majority of our floor done for our first main deck on the first main corridor on our um, saucer section. So basically what we're going to be doing is, and I actually just want to go back just for 1 second, just in case anybody hasn't done it yet. You can see I've taken the liberty from last episodes to today and filling in the oval on the underside that I started but didn't do that live because there really was no need to repeat that same process over again. But we're going to be using that template, which is why I added it. So now we can go ahead and jump into this. And basically what we're going to be doing is just layering out the outline for the bottom side. So we're not going to be doing anything super fancy today. We're just going to be going with our pre-existing cut line today and just fattening this thing up basically. So we're going to do a row of white concrete on each side of our gray row going all the way around. And I'm just going to let this ride out. And I actually got a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. I don't know those of you that have seen Star Trek on the Star Trek panel yesterday for Star Trek Day. A lot of cool stuff that they showed. We got to see a bit of it. They didn't show a trailer for it, but we did get to see a bit of a teaser of things to come for Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And some of this stuff is minor spoilers, so if you don't want to hear about this stuff, be sure to mute. But uh, first things first to get into it, I mean, they didn't really show too much set pieces. They really just kind of focused on the characters. And they did show off the transporter room a little bit, which was cool, but we really didn't see too much of it. We did see the new uniforms that they're going to be doing. I saw some people that were hating on them a little bit, but I got to be honest, I'm actually a huge fan of the original series Star Trek, and especially the Cage. I've probably seen that episode the most out of any of the original series, and it's actually my favorite episode out of all Star Trek, the original series, which is kind of weird because Shatner, I love Captain Kirk. Anyway, um, reason I'm bringing that up is because the uniforms and that they showed for Strange New Worlds remind me a lot of the uniforms from the Cage, and I can see the bridging point where they're getting to, and I hope that they do more of that because like one of the things I was a little disappointed with that they've done with Strange New Worlds and even Discovery is that it should be a period piece. It should feel a little bit older in comparison to Next Generation. They shouldn't feel like they're on par with one another technology wise. But with that being said, I like that they're at least going with that more of a retro look for the uniforms and at least trying to stay true a little bit more than what they did with the uniforms that we had from Discovery. Um, the next big bombshell they showed off in the panel was that Uhura is going to be on the show as a cadet, and not only that, but Nurse Chapel, she's going to be on, and I can't remember the character's name now off the top of my head, but there was another doctor that was in the original series is going to be another recurring character on the show, and I think that's so cool for like old school Star Trek fans. It gives us a reason to get excited, and it kind of gives me the hope that maybe at some point maybe they might actually introduce Kirk into the show, which I think will like, because I really don't hope that they stop the show once they bring Kirk into it. I could see them keep it going maybe and do some stuff that they haven't had a chance to show from the original series. One of those was namely how Kirk assumed command, because that was something that they showed in the Menagerie, I think it was, which was basically like a redux version of the pilot episode, The Cage. Um, and Kirk talks about it where he basically just said that a situation presented itself and he had to assume command. We never saw what that was, so that could be pretty cool. Maybe there's some other things that they could do, but no, definitely very excited for Strange New Worlds, and they confirmed again that they're going to be doing episodic serialized episodes. but somewhat slightly different than how things were in the original series, where each episode won't be so self-contained that characters will have ongoing arcs from beginning to end, but the stories themselves will be self-contained per episode, which I think is going to be fantastic. I think that's something that Star Trek needs to go back to, and it gets away from uh, picking one storyline and hoping that it's something that everybody can get into and doing that whole mystery box thing. I think that that's been done to death on other shows, and I hope that even they drop it on the next season of Discovery, because the first two seasons, I mean, it was okay, it was pretty good. Season one did it the best, I think, with Lorca and the Mirror Universe, but after that, it just kind of felt like a recurring uh, trend that just kind of has gone downhill. So I'm glad to see Star Trek going back to its roots. What else did they show? Of course, we got into another teaser for Picard, and confirming that time travel is going to be a huge, huge plot point in this season of Picard. And those of you that are not old school Star Trek fans, they heavily, heavily reference Star Trek The Voyage Home, which is my favorite Star Trek out of all the movies that they made. I think it's so cool that they're doing that, because that movie had the most heart out of any of the other ones, and it had the stupidest storyline out of all of them. We got to go back in time to save the whales. But it worked. It really worked for the time, and I'm really hopeful or excited to see them do that. And I think it's even funny because um, the trailer, like, to me, like, they reference two things, or times that we're in right now, that we're basically like in a totalitarian dystopian uh, modern era right now. But I think a lot of people were very critical of season one of Picard, and not only Picard, but Discovery, claiming that both those shows were the same thing and that they had to go back in time in order to fix the future. So that could be really cool. I really hope that by the time everything's all said and done, that maybe, just maybe, we end up at a point, but towards the end of season two, that it's a little bit closer to Star Trek: The Next Generation and what that was. Um, but what else did they show? We got to see the confirmation that the Borg Queen is going to be involved with it, which would be kind of cool. Um, I do hope that they don't spend the whole season, though, back in modern time San Francisco. I hope that they maybe do a couple of episodes there, but then it's pretty much they go back to the future, and the rest of the season in the future. I hope that that's somewhere that we go. And I also hope, I mean, we saw the teaser for, the picture of Picard in a Starfleet uniform. That's something I really want to see too. I really, really want to see Picard go back to Starfleet, and I think a lot of people wanted to see that too. And then also what happened to the Enterprise E. Like, these are a lot of things that I think people like myself that are lifelong Star Trek fans, these are answers, or these are questions that we want answers to. And another thing that I really want to see is, why hasn't Q saved Data? Q owes Data one, and if you don't know what I mean, go back and watch the episodes with Q from Star Trek: The Next Generation. But that's something I think that hopefully needs to be addressed. Anyway, getting back in a little bit what we got going on here, we'll talk more about the panel here in a few moments, but you can see now that I've done a row of white concrete going on either side of our oval, and now we're doing another layer on the outer side with the gray, and we're going to wrap this going all the way around. And I believe we're going to repeat the same process again on the other side. Now, what else did they show at the panel yesterday? I know that they showed some stuff for Star Trek Prodigy. Um, Got to be honest, I'm really not too interested in that show, but at the end of the day, that show is going to be for kids. I might watch the very first episode when it comes out just to see what it's all about, but to be honest with you, I fairly certain I'm not going to watch that show. Now, if I had kids, it would be a different story, and I'm actually very happy that they're doing that, because if you look at where Star Trek is right now, um, they've got a little bit of something for everybody. You've got Discovery for the people that are like the Game of Thrones fans, that anybody could die on the show, and that they had that mystery box type of thing going on, like with those other shows that are like that. So those people can get into Star Trek Discovery. And then you've got Strange New Worlds coming out. That's for the super classic Star Trek fans that like something a little bit more along the lines of how they used to tell stuff. And then you've got Picard. And then you've got Star Trek Lower Decks for people that are more uh, into the comedy, and then you got the stuff for the kids too. So definitely really cool time right now to be a Star Trek fan. One of the things I was a little disappointed with the panel though was that I was kind of hoping that they were maybe at least going to talk about the new Star Trek movie that was coming out, or give us a taste of something new that they're working on. But I mean, I get it. They don't want to oversaturate, but at the same time, they've already got, you've got Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks, um, Strange New Worlds, and Prodigy. So right there, that's five Star Trek shows. So it's not like they're already not oversaturating the market as it is. But that stuff, they've got it spread out enough that we're not getting it all at once. So hopefully we won't get too burnt out with it. I don't think that I will. I got to be honest. Like I remember when they stopped Star Trek after um, Enterprise went off the air. I was actually really disappointed with that. Like I was really missing Star Trek, and I was going back and I was watching a lot of the older stuff and just getting my hands on anything Star Trek I could watch. And like I remember I went out and I bought a bunch of box sets from that I had gotten at Best Buy. Like they had one. It was a box set of Star Trek, the best time travel episodes. It was like all that, like the time travel episodes from the original series, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Next Gen, and then the other box set that I have was the Borg one, where it had all the Borg episodes from all the shows. And I watched a lot of that, and then like, of course, we didn't get a real fix until the movies, the J.J. Abrams verse came out. But I mean, I don't know. I hope that they do more with that, because I've grown to really enjoy the Kelvin timeline and that crew. I think that they've kind of won me over as that representation of the original crew. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with Strange New Worlds now that they're bringing Uhura into the show and Nurse Chapel. It'll be interesting to see, if they decide to cast Sulu and Chekhov and Scotty and all of them. So that'll be pretty cool as we go. All right, so now I said that we were going to do gray on the other side, but we're going to forego that for right now. Now we're going to add another layer of white concrete on the outer side, and we're going to be doing that going all the way around this oval. And basically, what we're doing right now, talking a little bit about the build today, because I am going to be going back and forth between the build and talking about Star Trek. So there's just a lot of stuff to talk about, and I like to keep it going during the course of episodes so we don't have any dead air uh, through this. But basically, we're layering out our walkways. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because eventually we are going to come back and change the color of the floor. So this is not going to be the color that it stays. Um, but I'm doing it this way for people that maybe have a harder time building. So that's why I'm trying to layer it out this way so you can see the process in which I'm doing it. And not only that, going back and forth between the two colors so this way they don't blend in with one another. Now, um, we're going to be doing this going all the way around. And then when we get done with this, I think actually we're going to be doing another. I think we're actually going to be switching to a layer of the darker gray to wrap this up because we're starting to get down into the last few minutes of today's episode. We've got about 9 minutes left, so we're not doing too bad. So we're going to let that go. And while that's going, I'm trying to think of what else that they showed during the panel yesterday. Um, One of the shows I was surprised that they didn't bring up was Section 31 because I keep hearing about that show, but they haven't shown anything yet. And I got to be honest, I was surprised that they were even going to do it because of how season 3 of Discovery ended with Giorgio going back in time. So, like to me, like they were either going to do one of two things. They were either going to pull her out of the past, or maybe she was going to be the founder of Section 31. Um, I don't really know, but I was surprised that they didn't at least show a teaser for that or anything in general. Like I was expecting something other than all the stuff because pretty much everything at the panel that they showed yesterday was stuff that we've already known about. Pretty much, they didn't show any. They didn't give us anything new so far. Um, I know that they also showed the teaser for the rest of their season of Star Trek Lower Decks. I'm not going to lie, I actually did not watch that because I wanted to be surprised. I've actually been enjoying Star Trek Lower Decks. Those of you that have not watched that show, I'm telling you, give that show a chance because I know that like for me anyway, one of the turnoffs from Lower Decks was that I thought it was going to be like Family Guy. And I'm like one of the few people that I don't like the random humor and stuff. And like, I'll watch Family Guy if there's nothing else to watch, but it's not one of those shows that I would seek out. But once I gave Star Trek Lower Decks a chance, I realized that it had like a similar comedy or humor to that, but it was within the realm of Star Trek. And there are so many Easter eggs and references that if you're a big Star Trek fan, you'll absolutely eat it up because one of the cool things that they do in Star Trek Lower Decks is one of the things that they did two times now on Discovery, where they did basically um, continuation episodes from previous shows. Like with Star Trek The Next Generation, they had Unification Part 1 and 2 with Spock. Well, on Discovery, they had episode 3 of Unification. And while I don't think that episode 3 was as good, I'm not going to lie, I thought like it was a great episode. It was my favorite episode that they've done on Discovery, but I thought that it was a little actually depressing when you think about the fact that the Romulans had and the Vulcans spent 900 years on a reunification and they really weren't very unified at all. I thought like considering the times that we were in, I thought that that was maybe an opportunity to show that they had gotten past their differences to become one society as a whole, and that could have been a lesson to be learned for everybody that's kind of being divided right now. But anyway, they do a little bit of that on Lower Decks. They do continuation episodes, which I think is really cool. A lot of it, believe it or not, is reference to the original series with Kirk. But there's been a lot of stuff that they reference off of Next Generation too. Q's even had a cameo on the show, so definitely check that show out. I highly recommend it, and it's one of my favorite Star Trek shows that's out right now. Now, with that being said, I'm still very much so looking forward to Picard. I can't wait for Q to show up. I think you know, those of you that have been with me through the course of this channel, you know how I feel about Picard too. And I even said it before. They portrayed the future very bleakly on Picard, and that's not really what Star Trek is. So I'm glad that they're going back in time, but I'm curious to see how Q is going to play into that. And they kind of reference that a little bit because there was a sound bite in the beginning of the teaser where Q tells Picard, he says, "Do you remember our last encounter? What I told you? The trial never ends." So I'm curious to see, if Q's going to put humanity on trial again, or maybe he's going to put Picard on trial. Maybe one of the things that I personally think that uh, they will have to change, and I could be wrong, is that I don't think that they should have let Data die, and I hope that that's something that maybe plays into the show because I know for a fact that Brent Spiner is going to be on season 2 of Picard, and I hope that they bring him back. I think it would be a shame just to leave him dead. I mean, they've done the storyline with him being dead. I think that that's been done, and I think that with the whole time travel and alternate realities, I think for me anyway, as a fan, I could get past it if they did bring Data back at this point because once they change the past, it's not technically that timeline anymore. It's an alternate timeline. So in that original timeline, Data's dead, but they could save him in this new timeline. Other stuff I really want to see them do is I want to see more of the original crew come back from Star Trek: The Next Generation. I want to see more of the original crew from Next Gen come back. I want to see more of the crew from Voyager come back. I want to see the crew from Deep Space Nine show up. One of the things that some of you may not know this that they referenced for Picard um, was after Nemesis came out, they were getting ready to. They were talking about a couple years and what they were going to do next with Star Trek. And one of the things that they were going to basically do is pretty much like the Avengers of the Star Trek movies, and that was going to be bringing all the crews together for one movie. And of course, that never happened. Patrick Stewart said he was done with Star Trek, and on top of that, Nemesis bombed at the box office, so they never really did that. But a lot of the ideas that you see happening right now, like Seven of Nine showing up and stuff, that's stuff that they pulled from that idea. And I hope that they do more of that because I mean, I think a lot of people, like myself included, were expecting a lot of, especially from Next Generation, that crew to come back with Picard. Um, I think that there's always room to bring in new characters, but I want to see more Riker. I want to see more Donna Troy. I want to see what Doctor Crusher's up to. I mean, it would be very, very cool to see what Wesley Crusher's up to. You know, they showed him for a split second in the very beginning of Star Trek Nemesis, but you never find out what happened to his character and what he's been up to. You assume that he's back in Starfleet because he's in a Starfleet uniform, but there's a lot of cool stuff that they could do there. And I mean, I guess I'm just nerding out at this point, like an overload, because I've seen so much from the panel yesterday, and it's funny because I actually put it on yesterday to watch it, but I only ended up getting so far into it because then there was another show that I was going to be watching. I was like, well, maybe this is just for the best. When I get up in the morning, I'll go back and I'll watch all the trailers and stuff from everything that they showed. And I'm actually glad that I did that because I think that if I actually sat there and I watched the entire panel, I think I would have been a little disappointed because of the fact that they didn't show brand new stuff. Um, One of the things that I'm hoping, I'm still holding out for, but the writer, um, Nicholas Mayer, I think he is, and I think if the name's wrong, please don't hold it against me. But the writer of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, he was hired by CBS to write a Khan Noonan Singh miniseries, and that never happened. Oh, and that's the other thing. Now you got me thinking. Now I'm thinking about Khan. Um, One of his ancestors are going to be on Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. Um, I don't know if it's his great granddaughter or maybe it's maybe it's his wife out of Cryo. I really don't know, but that's one of the characters that they said that's going to be on Strange New Worlds, and she's a crew member on the Enterprise. So that'll be cool to see. But no, I hope that they do that Khan show because Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan is probably my second favorite Star Trek movie out of all of them. I think it would be The Voyage Home, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, then Star Trek First Contact. I love Star Trek First Contact. I mean, even to today's standards, Star Trek First Contact, the visual effects, they still hold up. They hold up really, really well. You can compare it to any sci-fi movie that's coming out now. I mean, hell, I would put Star Trek First Contact up against the modern Star Trek stuff, and I think that everybody would agree that First Contact visually looks more real than the modern stuff that they have out now. It's because they use practical effects. But anyway, think that's going to wrap us up today. We did a row of the gray on the inside, or dark gray, which is basically black on the inside and outside. So we've got our flooring done today. It took us a little bit longer to get that done this week, but this is a big ship and it takes a little bit to render this out. But we're in a good spot that we next week when we come in, you can start adding in the walls and closing in our corridors and doing our straightaway corridors and moving on to closing up the outer side of the top portion of the saucer section. Anyway, that's going to wrap us up today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. Hope everybody has a happy and safe weekend, and I'll catch you on the next episode.